Top of the morning to you. We're here today to do our special St. Patrick's Day episode. And so I'm here with Heather Moore and Jennifer Moore, and we are excusing Jen Geigle Johnson, who wasn't feeling great today. And I'm Julie Daines, and we have a very special guest today. It's Sarah M. Eden. And she is a fellow author. She is a friend and a really great, fun person. She is the local Irish expert, and she is the ultimate celebrator of St. Patrick's Day. So we're super excited to have Sarah Eden with us today and to hear some of her stories.
Oh, and we have a giveaway too.
Oh, yes, we do. We have a giveaway of Sarah's book that just came out on March 7th. It's called Wyoming Wild. So you just have to leave a comment here or on the YouTube channel, and you're entered to win this book. And also she has a cookbook coming out, actually, I guess on the 14th. So
yeah, it just came out. So that's this one.
Yeah. So that's fun too. So 2 fun new books from Sarah. She's also got lots of other really great, wonderful, a variety of fun stories out. So look her up if you haven't. But anyway, so we're going to tell some Irish stories. Well, actually, Sarah is going to tell us some stories, and then we're going to talk about them. Sarah.
All right. I was told I needed to be entertaining, so best of luck to me.
We are all hoping for an Irish jig.
That won't happen. I'll just tell you up front. I leave the Irish dancing to the Irish dancers. Yeah, you'd mentioned St. Patrick's Day is a huge holiday at our house. It also was at my house growing up, not only because we have a lot of Irish ancestry, but because St. Patrick's Day is also my birthday. So it's like it does double duty. And I can tell you honestly, growing up, I was convinced for an embarrassingly long time that people wore green on St. Patrick's Day because it was my favorite color and they were celebrating me on my birthday. So
that's so funny.
I don't know if that makes me arrogant or naive, but I was convinced it was Celebrate Sarah Day. So there you go. All right. So I was trying to think of some stories I could share with you guys. And I immediately thought of the many, many shenanigans I've actually had in Ireland. We've traveled there a lot. Before the pandemic, I was there about every year because I joke that once you go, it's in your heart forever and it will always call you back. So I've discovered that's true. The very, very first time we went, I went with my husband and my 2 kids. And my daughter was about 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. And we got to passport control, where you're getting ready to go into the country. It was the first time we'd ever traveled outside of the United States. So we were all a little nervous, didn't know what to expect. The border person asked, questions of each of us, kind of like they do. They're trying to gauge whether or not you look shifty. So we're trying to be very upright and not, raise any red flags. And we got to our daughter and asked her a question, and she could not understand him. Not even kind of. She's just staring at him like, my parents told me I had to be cooperative. I don't know what he just asked me. She could not understand him. So hoping that it was permitted, I repeated to her what he had just said. And she understood me. Great, awesome. So she answers his question. And then I can tell by looking at him, he can't understand her either. So I'm at passport control, repeating things to each of them so they can understand each other, thinking this is a very odd beginning to our time in this country. And it kept happening. We were there for 2 weeks and no one in the entire country could understand her. And she couldn't understand them. And I have no idea why. I don't think she spoke that much differently than we do, but no one could understand her. So I was acting as essentially a translator for 2 weeks, but from English to English and back again because they couldn't understand each other. So that's one of our big jokes. We don't know what language Catherine, that's my daughter, was speaking, but apparently it was not English as it's spoken in Ireland because they had no idea. And it was my one and only stint as a foreign language translator.
That is so funny. Okay, Jen, would you book it?
I would book it. I love that. It was cute. And I wonder if I would maybe in a story have a character with a little bit of a lisp or something to kind of explain
something,
why.
Right?
Yeah, because maybe baby talk. I don't know, like if it was a little kid, because
Who knows? Yeah.
but she was a regular kid that just speaks
All we
regularly.
could think was maybe she spoke too fast or
Maybe.
something. I don't know. But they could not understand her. She could not understand them. It was a comedy of errors.
Heather, would you book it?
So I would book it. I think it's just classic that happened, but I totally get it, because I'll literally be like at a restaurant and someone will say something to me and I'm not sure exactly what they said, and I usually always say okay, yes. So sometimes I get mails with things on it that I didn't really want, and I don't know, it just happens to me. Like it's almost like I'm not ready. They're maybe speaking too fast, or I'm not focused on what they're actually going to say, because I have something else in my mind. But it happened to me today too. I was on the phone with someone, and anyway, yeah. So I think Catherine and I are spirit animals or something.
I'll let her know.
Okay, I would definitely book it too. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so cute. I think that it would make a perfect beginning to a fun little rom-com, First of all, I can totally relate that you can't understand the Irish accent, right? Because sometimes you get over to the UK and some of these accents, Irish, Scottish, some of them are hard to understand.
Yeah.
But it's weird that at the border control that they couldn't even communicate, right? It's just funny to me. But I think it would make a super cute beginning to a fun little rom-com. I don't know. Sarah, do you want to vote on your own book, your own story, whether you can book it or not?
Oh, that's the kind of humor that is all over in my book. So I love awkwardness and embarrassment. So yeah, you bet I would work that into a book.
You can just see this whole awkward situation coming out of this from all these misunderstandings. Anyway, that is really funny and so funny. That's so hilarious. Cute. All right,
next story. So it's on this same trip. It was our very, very first day. We had a rental car because we wanted to be able to go to some kind of out of the way places, choose our own adventure, as it were. So it's our very first day. My husband's driving. He's trying to get used to driving on the opposite side of the road that he's used to, with the steering wheel on the opposite side of the car. And of course, it was a manual. So he's also trying to learn to shift with his left hand. We made it out of Dublin in one piece, which in and of itself was miraculous. We made a stop in the countryside on our way to Kilkenny, which is a town not terribly far from Dublin. That's where we were staying that night. We were going to stay in a little B&B that was right across the street from Kilkenny Castle, because we were really fancy. So we're driving. Of course, we'd never been there before, but we were like, no big deal. We have GPS. It'll be fine. So we have the map up and we're following it exactly. And we're on what we would hear term kind of like a highway. Like it was definitely a main thoroughfare. It was leading us toward Kilkenny. The signs had told us that's where we were going. And GPS tells us to turn off. And we were like, oh, it's interesting. We aren't at Kilkenny yet. There must be a specific way you go in order to reach the castle. I don't know. Special entrance. So we veer off. We're on a slightly smaller road. And that slightly smaller road leads to a much smaller road, which leads to what could barely be termed a road. And we're looking at each other like, this can't be right. But it's what the GPS is telling us. Well, before we know it, we pass a farmhouse. And then we pass a tractor. And we're starting to think, I doubt that is on the main road into this town. But being the stupid tourists that we are, we're like, GPS said, we're going to do what the voice on the phone is telling us. So we keep following it right into a field. This was thankfully a fallow field. Nothing was actually growing in it at the time, but it was also very muddy because this is Ireland and everything is muddy. And the car gets completely and totally stuck. I mean, we are spinning those wheels trying to get out, and there's just like it's starting to smoke. It's our first day out of 2 weeks, and we're stuck in a farmer's field in the middle of the Irish countryside. And so we finally decide, yes, this is a lost cause. We aren't getting out of here. Now, what do we do? So we send the women folk, which is myself and that 9-year-old that no one could understand, back down the road toward where we saw the farmhouse. So as we're approaching, and I'm kind of trying to decide how to explain to these farmers that we just made a mess out of the edge of their field, these enormous dogs, biggest dogs I've ever seen in my entire life. Come running.
Irish Wolfhound, maybe?
They probably had some of that in their ancestry. Bigger than my daughter, almost bigger than me. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to get eaten in a field. So these dogs come up. We're thinking, okay, now what do we do? And then we hear this whistle. He whistles them off. They go running off. And we see the farmer and, I don't know, a son, a brother, I'm not sure who, walking up toward us. And they're looking at us like, what in the world are you guys doing here? So I'm explaining what just happened. And he said, and the man asked, why in the world would you drive into a field? I was like, well, the GPS told us. And he said, it's amazing how many people set aside their brains and listen to a phone instead. So he says, show me where your car is. So I walk him over. They're just razzing us the entire time. I have never been made fun of in such a wonderfully friendly way in my life. Like, we're crying and laughing all at the same time. They get their tractor, they pull our car out, advise us to never, ever, ever turn off of the main road again. Even suggested we not do that when we get back to America, because clearly we have no sense of direction. So that was our very, very first day in Ireland. We get to the B&B. We're covered in mud from this farmer's field. The car smells like a farmer's field. It's our very first day. We knew we were in for it. It was not funny at the time, but looking back, it's one of our absolute favorite memories.
Oh my gosh, what a mess. That is so funny. All right, Heather,
Literally a mess. What's that?
Did you book it, Heather?
I feel like I've been traumatized. I don't know. Because I relate so much, because even with GPS, okay, this is how I drive GPS and I make the wrong turn because it looks like it says half a mile, but I'm like, it's been half a mile. I know it's showing that road, but I feel like it's this road because if I go a little too, because what if I pass it? So I was actually doing this when I was in LA. Like, this is like a year ago with my daughter, one of my daughters. And she's like, Mom, just look at the lights, like the traffic light on the GPS. I'm like, oh, that really, really helps. I don't know why. So
I might get a little too close to home.
Yeah. I like it, because I never thought about it as being part of a plot, but I'm like, yeah, I can use my real life experiences. I love that. And I also was thinking the whole time, you probably are jet lagged and just
100%.
frazzled anyway. And so this is just like, how much worse can this get?
Exactly. It was uphill from there.
Right.
Every day was better than that.
Start there. There's only one way to go.
Right. So yeah, but it sounds like, I don't know, it would be, turn it into something. Yeah. But I love that you guys are laughing and it ended up the dogs were called off and all this stuff.
Yeah. We didn't get eaten in a field. It was great.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how about you? Would you book it?
Yep. Back to the rom-com. Who's coming out of the house to rescue her is the hero of the story. And he
That
can
is good.
make fun of her the whole time and laugh at the mud on her clothes. It's just, that's such a funny story. So, and I would completely do that. I know I have done, just like followed the GPS and then been like, okay, hang on. I am not.
Remember when we were in England in that van? Jen and I were out in a van alone in England, and we followed the GPS, and we ended up on, like you said, Sarah, something that could barely be called a road, right?
Yes, all of a sudden.
And there's like no space. Every warning light in that van was going off because something was too close to the front, to the back, to the sides. We were just plastered between this hedge.
Yes.
Yeah. But and then like you kind of are thinking, oh, but this must be the way. I guess we're just not used to these roads.
We're just Americans. What do we know?
You justify it all the way into the field.
Until you're looking around this muddy field and there's
tires are spinning.
Exactly. Thinking,
and you're like,
there
oh,
were so many signs that I ignored.
And what else would you do? Like if you kept going, it would just tell you to turn around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably.
Make a U-turn.
Yeah. Or if you cut through enough farmers' fields, you get back to a road.
Right.
I don't know.
Did some teenager like plant a bug in that app, that GPS something, and they're just watching you on some remote camera laughing? There goes another one.
All right. Well, I would also, definitely book it. In my mind, it feels like it's already been booked, like in a James Herriot episode.
Maybe.
right?
Probably.
Like,
But I love it. And also, I feel like I might use it for my next talk in church. I feel like there's a lot we can learn here. When you said we justify it all the way into the field and then we're stuck in the mire, right?
Exactly.
There's
And
a
you
good
gotta
life
go get
lesson there.
rescued. That's right.
All right, Sarah, do you want to vote on
terrible.
book it or not book it?
I actually have booked it
Yeah.
in one of the timeless romance anthologies. I set it back in the early 19th century, and it's a man who gets his wagon caught in a field, and the soon-to-be heroine and her brothers come and rescue him, while of course giving him a horribly bad time. But it's late at night, so he can't leave yet. Anyway, it made for a great awkward meet cute,
I
which
think it sounds great. I
wonderful.
think it sounds great. All right, do you have one more story you want to share?
Yeah, I can share one more. This one doesn't reflect well on me, but I guess the last one didn't either. So I don't remember how many trips into my trips to Ireland this one was, but I was flying to Dublin and I was heading there by myself because I was going to be there for a few days before my husband joined me. So I was alone on a flight, cross Atlantic on my way over. And when you fly from the States to Europe, they're often red eyes. They go overnight. It just makes sense to do it that way. So I'm settled into the incredibly comfortable plane seats, which I know you all know that is the lap of luxury. So I'm trying to get as comfortable as you can. I wear glasses, obviously, so you have to pull your glasses off to sleep. And I tucked them into the pocket of like my little bag that was sitting next to me, just trying to, get comfortable. So I managed to get some sleep. It's the next morning. They turn the lights on in the plane. And so I'm trying to, get woken up, even though jet lag is kicking in. Reach over to grab my glasses and they're not there. And I can't figure out what happened, right? No one is on that side of me, so no one could have grabbed them on accident. I'm thinking, oh, I'm sure they just fell out of the bag. So I'm looking down on the floor, can't find them. Looking between the seats, I can't find them. Pulling everything out of my bag. I can't figure out where in the world my glasses have gone. So I'm actually get up out of my seat and I'm kind of standing. I was at the bulkhead, so there was room for me to stand up and turn around, trying to figure out where they went, tucking my hand around the sides of the airplane seat. And one of the stewardesses walks past and is like, "What's going on?" I said, "I can't find my glasses." Says they fell out of my bag or something in the middle of the night. And she was like, "Oh, well, that happens with phones. I'm sure it just kind of got stuck under the cushion." So she pulls the cushion off, not there. But what we did discover is on the side of the frame of the chair is an opening about that big, that there's a little lever that moves in and out to let the chair lean back and come forward. Exactly the right size for a pair of glasses. And so we had eliminated every possibility. And the stewardess says, "I guarantee you they're in there." And I was like, dang it. So I said, "Well, what do we do? Like, can it be like taken off?" And she goes, "Oh no. To undo that, we have to be landed. And a crew person who does that has to come on and take the chair apart." And I was like, "Oh, can that be done?" And she just starts laughing. Because of course that can't be done. She's like, "The plane will have to be grounded for hours because they take it apart and put it all back together." And I was like, "So what does that mean?" She said, "That means your glasses are going to become world travelers." In other words, I was not getting them back. Well, my first layover into Ireland was in Paris. At the time, I spoke exactly 0 French. I had no glasses. My spare glasses were in my checked luggage, which was being checked all the way to Dublin. So I had hours in the Paris airport without glasses, where I didn't speak the language, knowing that I wasn't going to have anything to give me my eyesight back until like late that night. So it was my very first time in Paris. Of course, it was only the airport, but it was the one chance I figured I'd ever had. Couldn't see a thing, didn't understand a thing, lost my glasses in an airplane seat. And the stewardess thought it was terribly entertaining. I didn't enjoy it as much. It's a much funnier story now. And I tell you, I'm very, very careful about where my glasses go while I'm sleeping on an international flight.
I think that's probably something we could all think about because, no one wants to lose their glasses. All right, I'll go
thank
first.
Goodness I packed a backup pair.
Yes, at least that is also
always,
something that we can
goodness.
all learn from this story about packing a backup pair and everything.
Yeah. So my glasses still, I imagine, are making flights over the Atlantic.
Yep. I'm going to say I wouldn't book it only because I was just waiting for you to say that the glasses were on your head.
I was too.
So you should book it with that change.
I'm like, I could just see you and the stewardess digging through, and finally she like looks up and really focuses on you, and they're like up here.
That is totally something that would happen to me.
That's where I thought this story was going.
Or the stewardess tells you the whole seat thing, and you just think that's so. She never like tells you they're on your head, and you maybe realize when you're in the Paris
Discover
airport.
them in the airport. Wait a minute.
Oh, that would be mean. That would be too mean. All right, Heather, would you book it?
I think I would, just because I totally relate to, and I think it could be something that would be a fun kind of character quirk. Like maybe she always loses her glasses, but maybe this one time when she loses her glasses, it foils a plot for whatever reason. When I went on a trip recently, I brought 4 glasses, 4 pairs, all different computer, sunglasses, reader glasses, because I'm over 50, and glasses in case I was driving, even though I was doing the Uber stuff. So I was prepared, but if I had lost my backpack, I would have lost all 4.
I've learned a lot about traveling from your stories, Sarah.
Traveling with me is always an adventure.
All right, Jennifer, would you book it?
Yeah, I think I'd book it. I think that's really fun, especially in that rom-com that like where everything is going wrong for this poor person, and it just keeps. You're right. It reminds me of a James Harriet, and I was thinking you were going to say that they were on your head, but like as the guys are in there, like taking apart the whole airplane to like get it out,
then you realize it exactly.
I mean, how do we have that little gap if it's not? I mean, it's the same in your car. It's big enough for your phone, but not big enough for like your hand to go down
Exactly. Exactly.
That seems like an error.
Word of warning, that is also the case on airline seats. So be very careful what you drop.
Sarah, do you want to vote on that? Or do you have anything else you want to say? Book it?
I don't think I'm ready to book that one. Like I can laugh about it, but there's still part of me that thinks I had no glasses. I was so vulnerable. What would I do? Anyway.
That would be scary. Honestly, that would be really scary, I think.
It's an unfamiliar airport where I didn't speak the language and I couldn't, because
Yep.
My prescription is pretty strong. I couldn't see a dang thing.
Yeah.
But my backup glasses are now always in my
and it's so disorienting to not be able to really focus on what you need to see. It's so disorienting.
So give it a few more years when I'm less traumatized. Maybe I'll use it.
So we just need someone to take all these stories and combine them into one hilarious rom-com of travel adventure.
And the funny thing is, no one would believe it.
Right?
And I'd be like, no, they all happened to me.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. It's been really so fun to have you. We are so grateful that you would take the time to come and be with us. Don't forget to comment if you want a chance to win Sarah's newest book, A Wyoming Bride.
Wyoming Wild.
Wyoming Wild. Sorry, I'm so sorry. It slipped my mind.
Well, and anyway, there's so many title changes. I don't always remember what it's called.
Don't forget to comment here or on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you have any kind of funny or entertaining or unbelievable stories that you would like for us to share on Fiction in Real Life, don't forget to email them to us at fictionirlauthors@gmail.com. And everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day, and we'll see you next time on Fiction in
Real
Life.
Yay!
See you later.